The purpose of this media briefing is for our principals to basically give feedback following the on-site visits they conducted all day today. I'm going to hand over to Minister Kalisa to take over.
Thank you very much, colleagues. I firstly want to greet the honorable MECs who are present here, MEC Williams and MEC Chapa for health. And while I also welcome the Minister of Basic Education at a national level, who have just joined us. I'm sure you can come this side where Bawestol is seated, because you will have to make an input. Minister, in terms of the education sector, our honorable mayors who are present in this briefing, and good afternoon to the media and the viewers who are following this feedback. This is following the media briefing that was done by the Premier yesterday, and today myself as Minister of Cogta and Minister of Basic Education, on behalf of the national government, we are here in order to be on the ground to ensure that we give every necessary support to the unfortunate situation that occurred over the past 2 days. Yesterday, we slept knowing the figure of 49 people deceased. This morning, we woke up with an increased number of deceased as 57 as follows. 51 people confirmed as deceased are in King Sabata, Dalinjebo, and 5 people in Great it's a Great Kai, yes, and 1 person at Mhlonto, which makes a total of 57 people deceased. The 57 people deceased include 6 learners amongst the 10 who were swept away in the scholar transport. The 4 learners still remain unaccounted for as missing. The figure of 57 is not just numbers, but these are human beings, some of them breadwinners, and some of them the only children in their respective families. This is a very big number to have been lost or to have perished on a single natural disaster which has ever been experienced in the Eastern Cape. So on behalf of the government, I want to join the Premier, the MECs and the mayors who have conveyed their condolences to the families, friends and relatives for such a huge loss. Our condolences also go to schools, where beside the 10 learners, there could also be other learners in the total number of 57. So we want to convey our condolences to schools, parents of these learners, the municipalities affected, our traditional leaders, whom are the custodians of the people that we have lost, and finally to the provincial government of the Eastern Cape. From this morning, we have visited various areas. The Minister of Basic Education will give a feedback as she went to the affected schools and met the parents. The team that I was going with, we went to the bridge where the minibus ferrying school children was washed away. It is very unfortunate. That incident should not have happened, because clearly, if you see the levels of water, the incident should not have happened. We are really sorry to the parents and all the relatives that were affected. We have also visited all the facilities, the community halls, where the displaced and evacuated communities are accommodated temporarily. Our observation are as follows. Firstly, the search and rescue services are fully deployed. We are so happy. Every effort was invested here from government departments and from humanitarian points of view in the all areas where we were doing site visits. The search and rescue teams are sufficiently on the ground. And secondly, there has been a report in the early morning hours in one of the media house which reported that there is a problem in terms of postmortems. I want to confirm that I spoke to the Minister of Health, Dr. Mswaledi, and a confirmation has been given that by 12 o'clock today, the 49 bodies that were confirmed as of yesterday have been completed. The only outstanding number could be the extra number, which totals to 57. So now, on record, sufficient support has been given in relation to the postmortems. And thirdly, people on floodplains were the ones who were affected. The infrastructure, the houses on the floodplains are the ones that were either washed away or were affected as a result of the floods. I think as a country, we need to start a hard discussion and confront the real challenge of people living on the banks of rivers to be removed before the worst happened. We were so happy. We visited 4 centers where our communities are kept, and all of them, they nodded with their heads to say yes when we said people on floodplains should be removed, because they saw themselves, their houses covered, and losing 57 people as of now at one time is very bad. And this should be a discussion now countrywide. All three spheres of government, local, provincial, and national, all political parties, civil society, we need to speak with one voice. That we cannot carry on losing people simply because they chose to build on floodplains. We need to collectively work together, municipalities, our traditional leaders, to identify safe areas where people will have to be relocated. And we will not have to wait for the human settlement to provide shelter, because where they are, they were not put by human settlement or any sphere of government, but on their own attempts and means, they provided shelter. And this should be a discussion which we must face and engage. And that is why I'm saying it was comforting to see people saying, yes, we understand means must be done so that we can get safer areas where we can start to put shelter on our own when the government, within limited resources, is trying to meet some of the communities, because it cannot happen simultaneously throughout the country. We can save human souls if we can all cooperate on this one. The president is coming here tomorrow to show his solidarity, convey his condolences, and also see the state in which our people are living. And surely he will also make his comment in relation on to people living on floodplains. The fourth observation for today: out of the bodies that have been confirmed as deceased, only 6 have been successfully identified by their families. We want to make a clarion call that now the storm is over. We need to move to a following stage to identify bodies, so that the following process, burials, can take place. This is one area which we want to encourage our communities in the affected areas to come forth to do the identification. We also want to encourage the neighbors. When you know that your neighbor has not been seen since this storm, please go to the mortuary and assist with identification so that the deceased can be properly identified. The interventions the government is going to do are as follows. We are happy for now that all key departments are on the ground. We are aware the infrastructure in terms of water has been affected. The Department of Water and Sanitation has deployed sufficient technical team and engineers to ensure that the infrastructure is being attended to so that proper interventions are done. Cape Cogta will also deploy technical support through MISA in order to ensure that the challenge of the infrastructure is attended to at the earliest. 2, as of today, the classification of national disaster has been done. Dr. Stole, who is present here, the head of the National Disaster Management Center, in terms of the law, he has done the classification of the 4 provinces. The first province is Eastern Cape, followed by KwaZulu-Natal, followed by Free State, and followed by Western Cape, which are the 4 provinces that were affected during the past storm. There will be no need of a declaration. The classification is sufficient. It allows all departments and all spheres of government to activate necessary steps in terms of intervention to respond to the storm that has occurred in the past few days. And thirdly, on the 7th of July, 2025, as Minister of Cogta, I will come back to Eastern Cape to announce the interventions in terms of disaster grants. It will be on Monday, the 7th of July. Now, the major responsibility lies on the 4 provinces to collate data so that necessary steps can be done, that by the 7th of July, we are able to intervene at the earliest. It is our wish as a government that intervention should not occur after 2 years, when multiple disasters have occurred. But any intervention in terms of disaster happens when a credible information was submitted by the affected municipalities. The MEC for Cogta, Honorable Williams, is present. The Honorable Mayors are also present. Our technical support staff is present. The response of the government will be immediate on the basis of information that will be submitted, as I have committed the 7th of July as a date to come back in this province. On that day, we will be announcing the disaster intervention to all the affected 4 provinces, but we will do it here in Eastern Cape. Lastly, I do want to thank all the humanitarian organizations who came on board in terms of support with material, blankets, sponges, and meals. And I also want to convey our gratitude to all spheres of government, from the local governments to the provincial government of Eastern Cape and the national government, for all the interventions in terms of support that has been provided. We know a heavy moment is going to begin now, laying to rest all the deceased. As the national government, we want to assure the province of Eastern Cape that we will be on board in giving support to the municipalities affected and all the families affected. And as the President of the Republic, His Excellency Cyril Ramaphosa, will also be here tomorrow, is a demonstration of the government in terms of supporting the people of South Africa, wherever they are, when a hard moment like this one happens. It is our prayer that God can help our country and our people, that such moments, while we accept we are in a period of climate change, but do not leave us with such a devastation as it happened over the past 2 days. I do want to thank the media for keeping the public correctly informed. But before then we can take any question, let us allow the Honorable Minister of Basic Education, Minister Hwahube, to make her reflections, as she is directly responsible to schools. And thereafter, our host, MEC Williams, will make the concluding remarks, and then we can take some few questions.
Must pay me.
Thank you very much, Minister Hlabisa, and thank you to the MECs that are here and our local government leaders, and thank you to the members of the press, as the Minister says, for being responsible also in reporting on this issue and on this disaster. Just to give an update regarding the effect of this storm and this disaster on our schools. We know that there was an accident, a scholar transport accident that took place on Tuesday morning of a transport that was ferrying learners from Jumba Senior Secondary School. 13 of the learners were washed away in that accident, and 6 of them have since been found and have been declared as deceased. As the Minister indicated, we are still, first responders and search and rescue are still looking for the 4 missing learners. And we visited the scene today where the search and rescue is happening, and that work is still underway. There were 3 learners who survived the incident and have met one of them today. We also visited the parents and the families of the children who are either missing or have been confirmed as having died, to, 1, express our condolences, 2, also really assure these parents and this community that is reeling from the shock of such a disaster of such a magnitude, that as government in all spheres of government, be it local government, provincial government, and national government, we are here for this community, and we are going to be assisting these parents and these families with everything that we can, including making sure that we do not give up on the search for these 4 learners, including also making sure that there's a decent burial for those who have been confirmed as deceased. Over and above that, we also visited the school of Jumba Senior Secondary School, where we spoke to the learners, many of whom are receiving psychosocial support. As members of the public can understand, this is not only a traumatic thing for these families who've lost loved ones, but it's also traumatic for the learners who are at that school. And so we have ensured and deployed psychosocial support, both from the Department of Basic Education and from the Department of Social Development. That psychosocial support has also been extended to the teachers, the educators at the school, and we managed to meet with them today. With regards to the damage, we know that over 70 schools in the province have been affected by the storm, and we also know that exams, particularly June exams, have also been affected by the storm over this past week. However, contingency plans have been made to make sure that the exams that have been missed or may have been missed this week will be rewritten at the end of June. And we will make sure that the DBE works very much hand in glove with the Department of Education here in the province to make sure that no learners are left behind in this process and that they are able to write their exams. We also are aware that there are schools that have been severely damaged, and so contingency plans have also been made to redirect learners where schools are completely uninhabitable. However, our priority, and now we are pleased that there has been a classification of the disaster, because then the province can then at that point start to really mobilize resources so that we can quickly repair the infrastructure damage in most of the schools so that we can make sure that learners are back in school. It is also important to understand that the school calendar is a very, very tight calendar with a tight schedule. And so when exams are missed, we have to quickly make up for them so that learners don't fall behind, so that they may be able to be ready for the either preliminary exams or final exams. I also want to make mention of the fact that we have been in contact with KwaZulu-Natal. While there have been no fatalities that have been reported, at least from a school level, but there has been significant damage that has been caused in many schools in KwaZulu-Natal. Similarly, the DBE is supporting the province there to make sure that there are no losses that are made in terms of learning and teaching, and that where exams have been postponed, learners are able to then make up for them. And then lastly, it is obviously with a sad heart and a heavy heart that we learned of an additional 2 learners today who have, over and above the incident of the scholar transport, who have been confirmed as having died on their walk to school. And these are learners in other different municipalities in this region. And again, psychosocial support by the MEC and the department has been deployed to those schools, and we are making sure that those families are supported. I think from the side of the Department of Basic Education, Minister, ours really is to make sure that we are repairing the infrastructure as much as possible and as quickly as possible so that we can get learners back to school. We are making sure that those learners who are needing scholar transport have scholar transport that is ready to take them back to school, because we have a responsibility to look after the school calendar. But then over and above that, we've got a responsibility of supporting these learners, teachers and educators and parents in the schools to make sure that they've got the psychosocial support that they need, but also to make sure that we assist with the province and the local government in terms of making sure that these learners are given a dignified burial that they need. And those are the most critical priorities on our side. Thank you very much, Minister.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. And greetings to you, the Minister of Basic Education, my colleagues, the MEC, and both executive mayors. Let me hasten to thank the national government through both ministers for their visit in support of our efforts as the provincial government to try and work ourselves out of the unprecedented tragedy that we are experiencing for the first time in the history of this province. I must indicate that since this is a provincial disaster, the HOD has since just sent me an SMS indicating that, Honorable Minister, that other districts have now submitted more numbers of people who have perished. Especially Krisani district, I just got a message that says we've got 3 deaths there in Tsikayetu, Sakisizwe, Inokumgijima municipalities, and 1 in Emalahleni. In Amatole, we've got Nguma with 3 deaths and Mpasha with 1 death. Now, from the 57 that the Honorable Minister is reporting, we're adding, if you look at 3 in Nguma, it takes you to 60. I think the number is 67 from 57. It now increases to 67. But the status quo, as the minister reported in the eye of the storm, which is KSD, the status quo is still the same. I must also indicate that through our campaigns with those families, Honorable Minister, advocacy in terms of people to go and identify the bodies in the morgues, the number has now increased a bit to about 21 that have already been identified. And so it means the campaign we're engaging on, meeting all those families, is actually paying off. And I must also indicate that the services, basic services, are being restored as it relates to water and electricity. ESCOM is reporting progress that the electricity even in the plants is being restored, working together with our provincial technical team, including the national technical team from MISA and the Department of Water Affairs. I forgot, Joe Gabi is another contributor because they contributed 2 deaths, which takes us to 67 before you ask me about it. Yeah, the 2 deaths in Joe Gabi. Roads and bridges, some have been mopped up already, they are drivable, and our Provincial Transport Department is on hand to deal with that. The Department of Health has also implemented health services in all the areas where our people are temporarily sheltered. So we've witnessed that our people are taking their medications to try and ensure that we don't have challenges in the health status of those members of the community. We have also indicated that about 1,000 mattresses are on the way to Umtata because there was a shortage in all the bases where we have kept our people. So about 1,000 of them are on the way, and we're hopeful that this evening all of those would have arrived and those community members would have been given such mattresses. The provision of food and blankets and all that, we've met the communities, they've confirmed receipt of all those necessities, and so far we are very happy. Let me hasten to thank the gift of the givers through Mr. Ali Sabley, who has been a pillar of strength in supporting the activities of government. Whilst government is investing a lot, but Alimdat and Gift of the Givers are on hand. Santaco has also assisted us in this work. Artists and musicians have come in. The business sector of KSD has also come in to assist and support us. Many private citizens of our province are on hand to support us. We've given them accounts. They are transferring funds. At the right time, we'll consolidate the support so that it is trickling in to all those communities that must benefit. So I would want to really appreciate both ministers for the visit. At least when National is here, the pressure is not so much on us as the provincial government. We feel that the leadership has actually helped us to actually manage the tension and the pressure and the inexperience of having to manage such unprecedented tragedy that has visited our province. With that, Honourable Minister, let me thank you and thank the Minister of Education for the job well done today. We are tired now. If we can get some space to go and a bit relax. I know Koli is looking for us for 8 o'clock, but we are still here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ministers. Thank you, MEC. Colleagues, we will now commence with the Q&A session. Please ask one question each. Before asking your question, kindly introduce yourself and indicate to whom your question is directed to. Let's start with Ronald from ENCA.
Ronald Masinda from ENCA. Minister, you mentioned, or Cogta Minister, to be specific, you mentioned earlier that only 6 bodies have been successfully identified as them to be corrected. Why is that the case? Because even earlier when we visited one of the health facilities, we saw quite a lot of parents who were eager to see or try to identify some of the bodies at the forensic pathology.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ronald.
Sorry, Minister, perhaps we can take a round and then we can, in the interest of time. Yeah, we can take a round. Okay.
Yeah, that's correct.
Following Gambi at Newsroom Africa. I've got 2 questions. Minister, the key difference between a declaration of a national disaster versus a national disaster classification. Please clarify that for us. And then the communities. Yes, you say that a robust conversation has got to be had as a country about building on floodplains. However, how much responsibility should government authorities also take when communities insist on building on floodplains, because you then go and electrify those places, you then go and put infrastructure there, yet you have told them very clearly that this is a wrong place to build at. So how much responsibility should local government shoulder?
Mine is short. As these numbers of the deaths are increasing and we are gradually approaching the stage of preparing for funerals, is the government in its plans planning to hold maybe what we may call a mass funeral for the victims? I'm done.
Thank you, colleagues. We'll hand over to our principals to respond.
Let me start with Ronald. As we are sitting here, figures are changing. You will recall when we went to sleep yesterday evening, it was 49 people. In the morning, it was 57 people. Now, with additional figures coming from other areas which are just coming now, in the morning we requested that the information must come early. Now, when the MEC is receiving the information while we are sitting here, it tells you the figure now has gone to 67 in terms of deceased. In terms of the identification, in the morning, we had a confirmed number of 6 people. The Honorable Mayor, Unyati, I spoke to him in the morning that can you please activate mayors to encourage people to go and do identification. That is why now the latest figure is 21. From 6.
Yes.
Then you ask a question as to there were so many people, why the number is low. There could be a number of factors because you need to correctly identify yourself before you identify the deceased. Now, some people will go there with no document to identify the deceased. There can be so many, and they will need to undergo a process of affidavits to ensure that not a wrong person makes an identification, even if it might be correct. I'm sure I'm answering the question. Now, actually, in relation to the two questions, classification is done by the head of disaster management, which is Dr. Stolle. Oh, well, there he is. When he has done the classification, it allows the minister to do the declaration. You do the declaration where you need an extra support which cannot be met by the classification. The classification makes it enough to allow departments to be activated, to intervene, all three spheres of government to start initiative of intervening. If then it had to be the minister who makes a declaration, there will have to be regulations that must be done first before you do a declaration, which can take a longer time to go through that process, which delays the departments or three spheres of government to activate processes. So now, it differs when an extra support is needed. Then you will undergo that longer period of undergoing a process for declaration. But if you feel, because we have seen the scenario, that is why we said, let's physically go there, not hear from phone calls or messages, physically go there and see what intervention is needed. The classification is sufficient to activate every sector of government to intervene. There is no need to go a further step of a declaration. I'm sure actually I'm answering the question. Then on the question of the responsibility of government in terms of services, you see the issue of climate change. We have been looking at it from other countries in other parts of the world. Now, even if you see people are in an area where they were not allocated correctly, it has been a tendency that services must be given to these people. But now we are facing a hard reality that climate change has come to live with us. That is why I'm saying at a government level, we need to begin a new conversation now, a very hard one, to say all the people, some have lived for more than 10 years. They could have lived there with no services. Now, the services that have been given to them was to enable their lives to be easier. But we are facing a reality now in terms of climate change, which has found us on the way, and we have to respond to the reality. Our response is to start a conversation and get the media to convey the correct information, that it is cool to move away from the floodplains. It is about your life. So that we start now to work with the mentality of everyone. And as I conclude, there is a very big, beautiful big house just on the bank of that river. Very good and beautiful with electric fence. The owner of the house, it will be difficult for him or her to relocate because he might say or she say, but what about my house? The house can remain empty when you have been washed away by water. So now if you manage to build a big house, God can still help you to build a bigger house in a safer place for you and for your children.
Well, the DG has established a committee to run with the whole issue of funerals. So what that committee does is to engage with the families so that you can truncate the time frames for funerals. And so we normally persuade families to have a coordinated approach to funerals, especially where government is involved. So that process we will definitely come back and indicate to you as to how we're going to approach it. We'll keep you updated. So for now, we're just busy with the processes of identification, post-mortems, and everything that has to do with the families. Later on, we'll get to the bottom of it in terms of details of funerals and how we're going to conduct them. So thank you very much on that.
Seemingly, colleagues, you've all been answered. I'll take another round of questions. Please intro yourself before asking a question.
Monge Zukoko here from UWN. My question is for you, Minister. It centers around the state of infrastructure. I think I'm going to piggyback off of Koli's question regarding our preparedness as a country for increased calamitous weather. So do you think that the rebuilding process, we will prioritize having buildings that will be able to stand if such occurrences ever come about again? And just in terms of maybe provincially, let's talk about infrastructure being built around those floodlines and low-lying areas. Like Cogta Minister just said, that sometimes you need to service these people despite them being so close to the floodline. So just the state of infrastructure.
Look, I mean, firstly, I think the more important thing to, infrastructure remains an Achilles heel for the sector in general. It remains an Achilles heel for, particularly, for instance, like a province like the Eastern Cape that's vast, that's largely rural. And so a lot of the schools perhaps and the buildings may not be as modern. But I can assure you, buildings and schools in particular that have been built in recent times are being really, you are looking at how do you make sure that they're a lot more resilient, but also how do you make sure that they are keeping up with the kind of prescriptions that modern buildings have. But of course, there's very little one can do in some of these kind of storms. The best thing that as a department we can do, the Department of Education, both at a provincial level and a national level, is to make sure that the repairing happens and happens quickly. That for me becomes the most important part, because if we don't repair buildings quickly, it means, as the minister said at the beginning of his inputs, that some of these buildings will sit like that for 2 years. And that for me is the biggest injustice, that when a declaration has been made, or at least a classification has been made, which allows you to mobilize resources, then it needs the province, we need to make sure that we've got accurate data, we need to make sure we know where damage has been done, and we need to move with speed to be able to repair those. So one, so that you can restore learning and teaching. Two, you can make sure that the infrastructure remains safe for learners inside those classrooms. However, this is the environment in which we're operating, and even in KwaZulu-Natal, as we sit here, the damage that has been done, it's just a matter of how do you respond quickly, make sure that you essentially make these schools as safely as possible. But we will still always contend with older buildings. We will always contend with, because there's no way in which you can replace infrastructure in its entirety. And so I think for me the best antidote for all of this is to make sure we repair quickly so that we can get schooling and teaching up and running again. Thanks.
Thank you, Minister.
Yes, final question, please. I'd like to direct it to Mr. Elias Tole. And this has to do with disaster management. And you'll correct me on this. My understanding is that disaster management departments have very healthy annual budgets. If I'm correct on that, what has been done? Can you see check, please? Oh, for the story. Okay. All right.
Come again, because no question.
Okay.
We're distracted.
Yes.
We would need a political intervention again.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I'll just shorten the question. What is your assessment of the disaster management in Mthatha, or should we say the OR Tambo municipality, given the response times? But also key to that, early warning systems. What was done to forewarn people? And do you think that the people here did that?
Yeah, no, thank you very much, ministers. Yes, let me start with the early warning question. We received the early warning from South African Weather Services. And as and when we receive those early warnings, and those early warnings, they get distributed to provinces and also to the municipalities, but also the South African Weather Services go extra mile and also share those early warnings in other social media and other media platforms. That's number two. We're then expecting that the structures in the communities will then also make sure that those communities are being informed in terms of the risk which they might actually experience. I think I will agree with the ministers to say the challenge we are facing, not only here in Mthatha, but it's also in other provinces, is the people building in the floodplain area, the floodline areas. That is the problem which we need to address, because even if you can distribute those early warnings to those people, and you find that they are unlikely maybe to leave their homes because someone can actually break in and then and steal their belongings. So it's about making sure that those people who are residing in those floodplain areas, then we actually relocate them, so that as and when we issue the early warnings, then we know that those people are not in danger. So I think it is work in progress, because in other provinces they've already started to deal with those people who are residing in the riverbanks. But I think here now, specifically because you asked about Mthatha, I think it's what we've discovered as we're doing the work about with ministers. We've realized that there are people who are residing in the riverbanks. That's a question which we need to answer as government, to say what is the best way of relocating those people. The second question we should ask about the budget, whether it's enough for disaster management centers. The minister indicated that as we speak, we are now facing the issues of the climate change. So we are experiencing violent floods, things which we never actually experienced 15 years ago. So which means we need to make sure that we're strengthening the capacity of the disaster management centers in those areas which we see that there might be some gaps. There is a process at national which actually is doing that to make sure that the disaster management centers, as and when they're functional, but we as national government, we make sure that we actually allocate more money to those centers, and so that those centers are able to build capacity to respond with the growing challenges which they are experiencing within the boundaries of the municipalities. So there is a process at national which we are looking in terms of how best we can enhance the disaster management capability in the country. That includes in UMTAD. The issue of the budget, I'll answer the question like you never have enough budget in the space of disaster management, meaning you can pump monies there, but as we always say, disaster management is everybody's business, which means as government we can inform the communities, we can alert the communities, but we need also the support from the communities to participate in our risk reduction activities, so that as a collective we can make sure that everybody's safe in any other areas. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sele.
But
Can I
just
bring this one? Okay.
oh, you wanted to add on this one?
On this one, Minister.
Yeah, come first, then I will do, because we must take the opportunity of educating the public, because there is an area which I think we can add more light to the public so that they can respond for the best of the country as we have landed into this period. You can come first and then I will be the last one.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. I think the early warning system, how we use it, once the NDMC, working with the weather services, issues out a warning. For instance, for this disaster, we had 2 warnings. One for the snow, which was level 5, and the other one for high rainfall, which was level 6. And funny in these 2 warnings, the predictions were quite surprising. It was 100% rainfall in this area, 100 in East London. Quite a funny rate of rainfall to fall, and once we get that, our district centers also get triggered. They receive the early warning system. Then we coordinate with local community radio stations to ensure that everyone is made aware, because I think we've become attuned as a province that we're a disaster-prone province. But I don't know, Koli, if you have realized from the bridge where we met you, going into that community, there are houses in the river, inside the river. It's inconceivable to believe that people can construct houses just inside the river. And I'm saying what the minister was really talking about in terms of engaging those communities to say they can no longer be there. We have worked out a strategy already with KSD municipality to say from next week on, we'll be sending town planners to those communities to just look at that area, come up with a report within 2 weeks, which report we're going to take it with those communities, because they agree now they would not be going to court to stall us from removing them. Take it to those communities and then decide to remove them. Because most of that land also, which information you don't have, is that it's privately owned land. So they've just got into that land forcefully and illegally and constructed houses. The municipality intervened. Once the municipality intervenes, they then go to court. Now it stops every process because we must respect court processes. So I'm saying, but now I think there's light that has come on, but it came on very late because we have got 51 people that have lost their lives through that particular issue. Thank you.
It's only, as well as the other media houses, on the question you are raising, it's very important because it helps to educate our communities. The early warnings were communicated sufficiently. If you could have gone to that community and tell them that you move away because of the early warnings, they will ask you, what are you talking about? We have been living here for decades. We have never seen what you are saying might happen. But now, if you can go to them, when there is an early warning, they will be the first to respond. And this is also, in a painful way, is helping the country. Because everyone who is viewing the footages, it will be easy. That is why this discussion must be a national discussion now. That early warnings will be given, but as long as you are on the floodplains, you are likely to be affected. And people like to take chances that it did not happen today, it's not happen the next time. It will only be people in that area who will respond quickly. But the more the media, everybody assist in saying early warnings are okay now, we are listening to them, but it might rain in the middle of the night when people are asleep. And we wake up with sad news. Now, we better do it now. Now, when there is no rain, there is nothing, we engage everybody and we take it as a national matter. Because now today we are here as a nation. If the president is coming here, it's a nation at Umtata because of a disaster, and all the people affected at most are on the floodplains. The children were unfortunate because the driver should have avoided getting into the bridge, seeing that for today is the kind of water I've never seen in this area. Now we can't say more, but that one really should have been avoided. The Dr. Stolle responded on, we are overhauling the whole system. I came back from Geneva on Saturday on a disaster risk reduction workshop. And very soon we will hold an engagement as a country in terms of how better can we mitigate disaster. And there are options that we are going to look now, the insurance. Because if you have the infrastructure insured, insurance pays quicker than the government. Because for government, the fortune here, we are at the beginning of the year. That is why it is easy for me to say I'm coming back on the 5th, on the 7th of July. Because we are at the beginning of the financial year, we have money. But if we were towards the end of the financial year, they would be difficult to intervene. But if the infrastructure is insured, when a disaster occurs, you knock at the door of the insurance and they release money. We are working on how other countries who are living with disaster for years are surviving through insurance, and there is a way which is going to make things easier for South Africa now going forward as we are reviewing the National Disaster Management System. And once we have finalized these initiatives and learning from other countries and also ensuring the infrastructure, and we are working with speed because we do not know when is the next disaster, as we have experienced now following what we had in KwaZulu-Natal almost 3 years ago. The media will play a greater role in mitigating the effects of disaster with our communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Ministers and the NEC. Colleagues will take the final round of questions. Please intro yourself and then ask the question to the principal director.
Bashap.
Okay, then we reach the end of our session. Minister, any last words?
No, Toli is asking what time is the president coming here. I'm sure the communique that has been released must be indicating the time tentatively.
9 a.m.
Oh, yes. 9 a.m. Yeah. Thank you very much, colleagues, the people of the media. We not do hear this one. We really want to thank you because you are the channel of communication. And we really want to thank you for ensuring credibility of what is conveyed to our communities. The social media these days is very bad because people communicate what is not true, but the reliable media, you know, whatever you read or you see, you check who is the source. And then if you know it's a reliable source, then you start believing it. And thank you very much for the role that you are playing and also reporting responsibly, even on sensitive issues. When people have lost their loved ones, it is too sensitive. And sensitivity is what we will always appreciate from the media, and also not pressing hard on certain issues where you need to give a space to the affected people. And thank you, colleagues, for the work that you are doing. Carry on supporting the communities until we meet tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thank you. With them hungry.
I want to on the issue of disaster.